All right, I've wanted to review this video for a very, very long time. It has been over a year since I posted this video, May 29th, 2022, with our good friend in the Palantir community, CodeStrap. And this video did not get, I think, a lot of the excitement or buzz or energy that it should have gotten back then because, well, quite frankly, Palantir stock was down. No one really cared that much about the company, right? Like I was, one of a couple of guys actually screaming about the company just because I find the company so interesting and exciting and I like covering it. But CodeStrap has found the company interesting for a while now. He actually took a position at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a major consulting firm, to work on helping clients build out Foundry and AIP. He's one of their back-end engineers, and he's working with them full-time to try to get Palantir out into the world. This is a clip that I rewatched the other day, and I actually did it on one of the Palantir daily live streams, and it was one of those clips that it takes time to really understand. I didn't get it when I was lucky enough to be on that live stream with CodeStrap talking about this on May 29th, 2022, and I didn't get it at the time, and now I get it. A lot with what has gone on with Russia and Ukraine, what has gone on in the defense space in general, and how Palantir has played a pivotal role in keeping Ukraine alive. It seems to be piercing through me a little bit more. The title of this video is NATO Will Be Begging for Palantir. It is CodeStrap's analysis on what the government business looks like for Palantir, what the trajectory of that business looks like, and sort of the moral and ethical values that a government business could have in regards to Palantir as it comes to saving lives and ultimately helping the West and freedoms remain free. So let's take a look at this video. I'm going to pause it at certain times to kind of double down on some on his analysis, but I thought it was ultimately a really good video and one that deserves some more attention.
We all know governments, go like the government spending goes up and down. The thing that I'm most impressed with is their role in the war in Ukraine. And if I'm reading between the lines correctly, don't worry about the government spending because in my opinion, they're $100 billion company on government spending alone. If what happened in Ukraine is reflective of reality, because if it is, a NATO with that power in their hands is undefeatable. Period.
Really?
Yeah.
100%. And do you think NATO would? Do you think they could sell to NATO?
They don't need to sell to NATO. NATO will be begging them for that technology.
Okay, real quick. So when he said that, I don't think I understood at the time, right? Because I asked a very naive question. I was like, "Oh, you think they could sell their software to NATO? You think we can make some money off these NATO people?" He was like, "You saw the pause he took for a second." He's like, "It's not about selling to NATO. It's about we have the one thing that's going to keep them in business, meaning alive, promoting the peace that they want to promote forever because of our technology." So it's not like a sales pitch. It's like, no, you need this and you better pay up to get this. But more importantly, we're ready to give this to you because we know you don't have any other options if you actually want to protect what NATO has built and stood for. I didn't get it at the time, but now I'm starting to get it a lot more, especially with countries like Lithuania trusting Palantir and all these different other, the UK Defense Ministry gave them $91 million. There's a lot of stuff happening, especially in the Baltic states, because of what happened with Russia and Ukraine and Palantir's role in it.
If it's doing what they're implying it's doing in Ukraine, yeah, 1,000% Go look at why the Russians T-72 is getting blown up and absolutely eviscerated. You know what the number one thing you got to do in a ground war is? Stop the fucking armor. You have to stop the armor. That shit will run through your cities like you weren't even there. You know what a tank does to fucking infantrymen? Like, I don't think you guys understand. You have to stop the armor. If you stop the armor, you have a chance. You can dig in. You can fight a prolonged air war. You can survive the artillery. But if you don't stop the armor, you're fucked. What happened in Ukraine? Javelin missiles and maybe Palantir technology? You guys read their articles about the golden eye in the sky, like fighting. If they provided them with like the visibility and where those tanks were, and that applied the Javelin missile to kill them all, and Sharp is saying like they're digesting it, that is a game changer, dude. Changes the entire landscape in NATO.
And so again, what CodeStrap is implying here is that the technology, if it is being used the way he thinks it's being used, it is an absolute game changer because Ukraine's ability to stay alive is because of that technology. And some people are like, yeah, but it's like, you can't that. And I think a lot of times, sometimes, it's like, or the technology's helping. It's like, no. He's going to go on further in the clip to explain if that's what's keeping your country to be sovereign, still to protect some of its sovereignty. That's a very big deal. Now, you can have whatever political beliefs you want about the United States spending money in Ukraine and all this stuff, but regardless, if a war is happening, forget the United States spending a ton of money. Palantir gave the software to Ukraine for free. Like to the best that we know, Palantir has publicly said they are not making money off the software to Ukraine. Now down the road they expect to make money, but it's not like it's not like they were like, all right, this is a profit grab for us. This was, no, we don't want you guys to die by a dictatorship that's coming to like invade you, and so we're gonna give you some software to help protect you. And apparently that software is ending up to be really beneficial for Ukraine.
Overnight.
It highlights a potential misreading of Cathie Wood's thesis, which is that she feels the government business will slow down. That's why she liquidated 37 million shares. If she truly believed in Palantir, she would have believed that the inevitability of chaos would validate their business model.
Give you some insight.
Cathie Wood is now back, but obviously 5 million shares, not 37 million.
Into Cathie Wood and her thesis there. Karp said, if you pull the plug on troops, they will never trust you again.
Yes.
Right? If you pull the plug because you're unpopular, they will never trust you again. And Cathie Wood is complaining about their lack of competitiveness due to some unnamed third party that might have a technology like theirs.
Yes.
Who do you think has better insight into the U.S. government and their spending patterns? Alex Karp, who's stating facts and reality, or Cathie Wood, who's spitting fucking nonsense? You know, like, he knows what wins government contracts. It's trust. Period. End of fucking story. Do I trust you, motherfucker, to bring my people home alive or not? Period. And if you think it's anything else, go look at how long, like, who won those debates in the U.S. Army about, like, Palantir dislodged the internal U.S. Army from their own fucking software, motherfucker. Dude, because they brought people home alive. You know? Like, dude, no, it's not even.
I think his analysis there on Cathie is also really important to understand, right? When Cathie sold, a lot of us, you know, I mean, most of us were still drinking all the Cathie juice, so we were kind of scared of it. Like, what do they know that we don't know? They didn't know shit. I mean, their reasoning was there's players in the private space for government, and they believe government is a big moat of Palantir, not commercial, therefore they sold the stock. I agree, government's a huge moat, defense is a massive moat, and I would be concerned if there was, you know, some person eating Palantir's lunch. That person doesn't exist. I mean, I think we realize that now, and it shows a lot about arcs of research if they thought someone existed, because all of us as longs don't have access to, you know, Cathie's research team, but we all kind of were able to figure out no one's gonna do what Palantir's doing, and the Ukraine thing kind of settled the debate. No one's doing it. So if that's the case, you know, Cathie's selling, given on lack of defense growth, was primarily some weird kind of business decision in terms of the sell, whereas Coatrap saying, look a little deeper. Do I trust you to bring our people home? Who am I going to trust in regards to selling the software that brings our people home from war? Alex Karp or Cathie Wood? It's a little bit of a easier discussion at that point.
It's stupid. Like, to even debate it is, in my mind, again, not financial advice. In my mind, it's dumb because they're delivering on what everyone wants. You know, they're delivering on the promise, which is we'll bring you home alive and we'll defeat the adversary.
And let's hypothetically assume a company can do 80% of their software for 40% cheaper. It's still the trust component that you think secures deals, right?
Look, man, I don't know about you, but like, if I was someone who was in charge of a lot of people's lives, I probably don't care about the marginal cost differential. You know, I care more about, like, does your shit work? You know. Is it going to deliver? I mean, again, these are the most high stakes environments ever. Sorry, Mrs. So-and-so, that your husband didn't come home because I wanted to save 50 cents on the dollar. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Maybe egos get in the way, but it's not about a cost differential. I mean,
that's a big deal too, right? Sorry, your husband's not home today because we wanted to spend 50. Like, really? That's the phone call how are you going to live with yourself? Yeah, we had unlimited amounts of money because we have taxpayer budgets, you know, so that's theoretically unlimited, $800 billion, but we wanted to save a couple million. So unfortunately, the software wasn't good enough to protect your husband. Like, that's a tough conversation to have. And I think that proves Palantir's mode. If they have the software that can get the job done, it's why they sued the military or the army to be able to meritocratically procure software, because they knew they had the best software. You got to go with the best. And if Palantir is the best and they have the best shot at significantly reducing, you know, American soldiers dying, or any country soldiers that buys their software dying, then you got to go with that, because, like, a little bit of money compared to someone dying is just not a question.
Maybe in 10 years if things keep going the way they are, but at this stage, it's not about a cost differential. Yeah.
And so the argument that the government's kind of they do it from the cheapest case, it's like it works in some governmental contracts, but when you're talking about mission critical stuff, it's a little bit more difficult.
Who the fuck do you think is the first person on the phone when there is a crisis like Ukraine? Is it a coincidence Palantir was like the first company on the ground there helping with the refugee crisis? Not that they weren't, but if you think that's the only thing they were doing, and mysteriously all the T-72s got blown the fuck up like 6 weeks later, you're out of your goddamn mind. You know how you blow up a T-72 with a fucking Javelin missile? You know where they're at.
That's pretty. It's number one. Palantir was there in the refugee crisis where they were using their foundry for homes rebuilding. I think that's what they called it, something like that, where they were relocating refugees from Ukraine into different parts of Europe. So they had like an entire data system set up to be able to effectively do that. But CodeStrap's like, yeah, that's what they said they were there for, and they were definitely doing that. But then these Russian missiles go disappearing, and the only way for them to disappear is if Ukraine knows where the hell they are. The only way for Ukraine to know where the hell they are is maybe a product like Meta Constellation, right? And then, so it goes into a broader point about how Palantir is helping, and now Palantir is doing the digital reconstruction of Ukraine. That was a PR that came out a couple of weeks ago. So his point that they were the first company that settled down in Ukraine, it makes sense why it was Palantir.
Because they dome those motherfuckers, you know? It's not line of sight. So just let me tell you, dude, like in my opinion, they've been involved. Everything says they've been involved. I have no inside information about that. I have no idea, but based on what they're insinuating and the kill rate of those tanks and the fact it's all been Javelin missiles, how could they not be involved? Right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, everything they said this week is like making me think, oh, yeah, and they're digesting it. What does that mean? It means that NATO has a new leg up. And if it's the advantage that this war is showing it is, bro, 100 billion just on the government, in my opinion.
So, that was interesting to hear CodeStrap say that. The reason I wanted to bring this back to light is because is the government TAM 100 billion? Maybe not, right? That's just here or there. You can do your numbers, but if you just take it at a really qualitative level, forget about going deeper into like how much does every government spend, and then we quantified all that stuff. Baseline level, Ukraine war happens, still no resolution to that yet, but one of the reasons they're alive is likely because of Palantir. Palantir is then helping in all these other parts of the reconstruction in terms of Ukraine. Palantir then sets up a tech hub in Lithuania. Palantir gets $91 million from the UK Ministry of Defense. Palantir just got $100 million of deals from the Space Force in the United States a couple of weeks ago. You start putting the pieces together, and then going back to the point of this video, NATO, what is the objective of NATO? To promote democracy and world peace. And Russia doesn't want Ukraine to be part of NATO because they theoretically still feel Ukraine is a part of Russia. And one of the big agreements that they had about 3 or 4 decades ago was like, we will settle certain regions here and there, but Ukraine never joins NATO. And, all the inklings Ukraine had to try to join NATO, that's when Russia got more aggressive. So NATO knows that unless they have the right technology, unless they have the right allies, unless they have the right partners, there is no chance. I mean, there's just simply no chance for them to survive long term when you've got adversaries like China and Russia with budgets that are theoretically bigger, technology that is theoretically stronger, and people that are willing to do whatever they need to do because the state tells them what they have to do. I think CodeStrap is absolutely correct. Now, how does this play out over the next 10 years? I have no idea. But what it is important to understand is betting on Palantir is almost like a hedge against total chaos going on in the world, which you could be like, I don't need to take that bet. Are you sure? Are you sure? I mean, that's a question you got. Are you sure? And that's not saying you want chaos to happen. That's like I'm working on this new concept on a different video coming in the future. Someone who wants FSD to exist as a Tesla shareholder doesn't want ICE vehicles to crash. They're just betting on the fact that ICE vehicles suck, that humans are going to be worse than AI in the future when it comes to driving. And so they want to bet on FSD. And again, if you're betting on Tesla, the value between Tesla being millions or trillions or zero is FSD. And that is Elon Musk quoted to say that. So if you're betting on Palantir, you're essentially betting that this world is going to get crazier. And that's not just crazier in terms of geopolitical tensions, but like everything that impacts the world in terms of the businesses, supply chains, and logistics flipping upside down because of a tornado that happens. Who's there? A pandemic that happens. Who was there? It was Palantir. Investing in Palantir is a hedge against the crazy stuff that happens in the world. And as a result of that, if the world gets crazier, your investment theoretically could do better because they are the first people on the phone when things hit the fan. And NATO will likely need them a lot in the future, even if it's just a precautionary thing. That can mean more contracts for Palantir and more revenue at the end of the day, and more impact that they're going to have on the world. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Thank you for Coach Rap again for spending his time with us a year ago. And let me know what you guys think about his comments on NATO and Palantir. See you guys in the next one.